Hi friends, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make instant pot mashed potatoes. They're creamy, buttery, delicious, and perfect for the holidays. You're going to free up the stove, use your instant pot. You can even use a smaller or a bigger instant pot. I use my 6-quart, but you can even use your 10-quart. Let's get started. First things first, we're going to be scrubbing our potatoes. I like to use a Castile soap that's really watered down in a spray bottle, and then I just use it around my hands, and then I'll actually under the sink use a scrub brush, and then we're going to peel our potatoes. Even though we are peeling them, we still want to wash them. These grow in the ground and they are full of dirt. I'm just using a peeler, and then as you can see, I'm using the top to cut out any eyes, which that can happen in potatoes. You don't want to just keep peeling or cutting that off. I like using the tip of my peeler. It actually has that thing that is an eye remover. If yours doesn't have that, then you can obviously use your knife or keep peeling. And then I'm just going to peel. I did not grab a big enough plate, so my peels are going all over the counter, but that's totally fine. It's super easy to clean up because it's right next to my sink. And then I'm just peeling it until they're nice and peeled. If you wanted, you could actually leave the peels in. The peels are actually nutritious, but for things like Thanksgiving and holidays, I do like to remove the skin. Now, as far as potatoes, I like to go with a russet potato. And the reason being is because a russet potato is the highest starch content. They really absorb whatever you put into them. And if I don't use russet alone, I will also do a combination of russet and Yukon. And it just makes for the best, creamiest mashed potatoes. Another thing to note, talking about the higher starch content and really absorbing all the flavors, we're using the Instant Pot. So these potatoes are not going to be waterlogged. They are going to absorb so much liquid, and they are just going to be super flavorful, really creamy, and really velvety smooth because of the butter and the milk that we use. And then I'm just going to clean my counter. As I said, these potatoes are filthy. So what I like to do is just use that same vegetable wash that I actually use for my produce and just scrub my counter. It's actually a multi-purpose cleaner solution, and I love that it's safe for both. Then we're going to put our potatoes onto a cutting board and cut them lengthwise. I just made sure that they were okay. I had one potato the other day that had this huge brown spot inside, but you couldn't tell from the outside. Then we're going to cut them into quarters, and then we're going to cut them into eighths. So we're going to have nice uniform chunks, and then we're going to put this into a mesh strainer that fits inside the Instant Pot. I'm using a 6-quart Instant Pot, and it fits beautifully. I use this whenever I'm steaming vegetables in the Instant Pot, or even making Instant Pot hard-boiled eggs, just because I don't really love the trivet. It works so much better. Then we're going to put our lid on and then put it on sealing. We don't want the heat to escape, so you want to make sure it's not on venting. We're going to put it on manual pressure for 8 minutes. Again, remember that it has to be on sealing for it to actually steam. And then once those 8 minutes are up, we're actually going to quick release it carefully. I like to use the back of a long spoon, and then I'm going to use a hot glove to actually remove the lid, because I'm also going to use that hot glove to get this out. I like to make sure with my fork that it is falling apart and feathery. As you can see, it is super fluffy. Then we're going to take our insert out and then drain any water if there is. There was no water, so I'm just going to put my potatoes right back in there, and we're keeping it on warm. You could also put it onto saute mode. We're going to use our butter, which has been softening at room temperature. I'm using 6 tablespoons of softened butter, and then we're going to season it. I'm using kosher salt and pepper. You could use regular salt as well. Just make sure you do this to taste. And then we're going to use our potato masher and mash that butter in. It should be really soft in there. The potatoes are very hot, so it's going to melt right into the potatoes, which is perfect and what you want. Now, if you want, you can add more butter, but I think 6 tablespoons is pretty good. You could use up to a stick, because we do have about 5 pounds of potatoes in here, and that should be good for it. I do sometimes go up to a stick, but I did not actually have a full stick, so I used 6 tablespoons today. And I just keep mashing until the potatoes are mashed perfectly, and then we're going to go in with some warm milk. I start off with a half a cup at a time, and then I go up to 2 cups. Like I said, these potatoes are not cooking in liquid. If you boil them on the stove, they do get waterlogged, and they have a lot of residual moisture in them, even after you saute them on the stove and really steam it out. When you steam them in the Instant Pot, we only put 1 cup of water in it, and they're not absorbing that water like they would in an actual pot of water. So we're keeping on mashing and mashing, and I keep adding a half cup a time of that warm milk. You could also use heavy cream Another option would be to, when you're warming up the milk or the heavy cream on the stove, you can add some fresh herbs or even some garlic into the actual pot when you're actually making it warm. And then you could just strain that out and add it to the mashed potatoes. This looks perfect. We did end up going with 2 cups of milk. And again, because we did not waterlog these potatoes, you may need to even use a little bit more, but I would really keep to using a half a cup at a time. It's almost like when you're making a recipe and you use a tablespoon at a time, add a tablespoon more. It's one of those. I would recommend using a half a cup at a time. Then we're going to put them in our bowl for serving. And then I like to just garnish with a little bit of salt and pepper. And this really is a lot of mashed potatoes. I will even meal prep these potatoes. It's not just for the holidays. They are perfect potatoes all year round for any occasion. So here's a close-up of our mashed potatoes. They are super creamy. Do you hear that? Oh, I can't wait to take a bite. Let's go. These are my mashed potatoes. I'm gonna still take a taste test. I love my mashed potatoes. I've loved mashed potatoes since I'm a kid. I've been making them since I'm 7 years old, and I've been making them in the Instant Pot for probably 2 years now. So good. One thing I will say is I love chunks in my mashed potatoes, so I use a potato masher. If you like them extra smooth, you're gonna wanna use a potato ricer. But since I'm a little girl, my grandmother made them with chunks and bits of the potato still in there, so I kind of leave them chunky. It's a little rustic, and I love it. If you wanted, you could even leave the skin on. I love skin on mashed potatoes, but for the holidays, I tend to take it off because not everybody likes the skin. Now, as far as garnishing, I just put a tab of butter and a little bit of pepper. A lot of people don't like green, so I don't add it. If it's my family and I want it to look pretty, I could do green, but a lot of people are just gonna pick it off. And yeah, sure, it looks pretty, but not many people want that on there. So keep that in mind for the holidays. I know we love things to look pretty and we love it to be green, but I don't know. I've never really put green in mashed potatoes unless I'm making colcannon, which is absolutely delicious, and I will be sharing that recipe probably in the spring. And then another thing is always start with warm cream and softened butter. Then we're also going to remind you to season to taste. If it's too salty, you can't do anything. So add salt to taste. Same with pepper. So what I like to do is season it, mix it for at least a minute, let it cook, and then season again, because the salt will actually develop more into it as it cooks. So keep stirring it for like a good minute, then taste it, because if it's too salty, you can't remove it. I'll never forget that lesson my grandma taught me. I actually added too much salt, didn't like the mashed potatoes. I choked those potatoes down because I wanted to prove a point to my grandmother. Yeah. They were awful. They're worse mashed potatoes because I kept adding the salt. She's like, it's got enough salt in it. I'm like, I need a little more. Kept adding it and not tasting it, not knowing. I was like actually 7 at the time. That's when I learned how to season to taste. You can always add, but you cannot remove. Thank you for that, Grandma. I miss you. Anyway, I am gonna go. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. It is perfect for the holiday table, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye, friends.